Hello students, today's poem is Ecology by AK Ramanujan. AK Ramanujan, we know the very famous Indian poet. So let's start reading this poem Ecology. Ecology is based on theme of nature, home, relationship between mother and son. So what is the theme of this poem? Is the theme of family, mother-son relationship, ecology, nature, and man. So let's start. Ecology is Ramanujan's well-known poem. It depicts the blind and innocent faith of an educated Indian woman. So what is the important in this poem is the Indian woman. This woman is poet's own mother. Poet's mother. She has a great love and respect for the champak tree. So champak tree is another thing that will happen in this poem. They have been there from the time she could remember and provide basket full of flower to women in the family to offer their god. So this poem also has a religious touch, but the fragrance of the flower. So this is the villain here. Fragrance of flower gave her severe attack of migraine, and so her children decide to cut them down. This is the climax. When she hears about this, she flies into a fury and adamantly protests against her children. So this is our irony also. The poet implies that through her love for the trees, unaware her mother, she is becoming a strong spokesman for the protection of nature and her trees. And the poet himself represents the educated modern man and luxury of forget his duty to nature. So we find so many elements that tree is one thing and poet's mother is another, and reaction between a champak tree to his mother. The pollen brings some severe pain to her mother, so the child want to cut the tree but mother protest. So this is an example of irony also. Let's read another aspect of this poem. AK Ramanujan is devoted to his mother. He is very angry because the flower of red champak tree caused severe headache to his mother. Even the breezes and his home cannot protect her from the ill effect of the pollen of the flower. So pollen of the flower that falls on the home is cause of pain. She decides to cut off the tree. Her mother prevents him. She sees the only positive side of the tree. She says that the tree is as old as her. It gives many flowers to worship God and decorate the girls of the household. It is germinated by the dropping of passing birds. It's a good omen. It may give a terrible headache to one line of cousins. The poem shows the poet's strong interest in family. So the interest in family is another theme of this poem. His mother has a kind of emotional attachment to a tree. That is why she does not allow her son to cut the tree. So this was a theme of this poem. So let's start reading this poem. This is a dramatic poem that we find that is written in a flow of conversation as a poet speaks the whole poem, and there are mainly three characters. We can say the speaker is type of a monologue. We can say the type of a dramatic monologue, a tree of champak, and poet's mother also. So there is an interaction and the indirect interaction between poet, the mother, and effect of tree. So let's start reading the text of this poem. The text. The day after the first rain monsoon. So the atmosphere it created through the very beginning of the line. The day after the first rain at the time of monsoon. For a year I would home in a rage. Interesting. What are you so mad about, speaker? And the poet is in rage, in anger. और पोइट को गुस्सा है किस बात का? For I would see from a mile away, from a mile away, from a mile away, a mile away. What is there? There is a tree. Our three red champak tree. Our three red champak trees had done it again. Had done it again. That they have committed some offense again. And I am in anger. Why? Meaning they have done it before. They also done it sometime before also. So the first stanza or the first opening lines create atmosphere that all these things happen at the time of monsoon, at the rainy season, when something is went wrong by the tree, the champak tree. And what they did wrong? Read in the next stanzas. Had burst into flower, has burst into flower. There is flowers. There is flowers. Had given mother her first blinding migraine. Blinding migraine. So that was the offense caught by the champak trees. First but not last. But this is not last. It is first but not last. Blinding because of the extent of the pain seed of the season, these migraines last the whole season, and these migraines last whole the season. So we see that the tree of champak causes a painful headache, a migraine to poet's mother, and this migraine will last to the whole of the season. And now just at the starting of this season, and this is not the last, this is the first time, and in the previous or in the last year they also did the same. So this is an activity that happened every year, and poet want to highlight this, and this activity made the poet enraged, made angry. With street long heavy hues, yellow pollen fog of fragrance. Yellow pollen fog, a type of fog there is everywhere in the street, and this is a fragrance. The pollen grain have made the air thick like fog. In fact, that air is yellow with this heady scent. No wind could sift. No wind could sift. The breeze cannot blow away this fog. And the blooming of red champak tree brings the pollen. The pollen has been driven by air and spread everywhere in the street. यानी कि जो गली है वो पूरी भर गई है फूलों के फ्रेगरेंस से, उनके पोलन से, और इससे क्या है कि एक प्रकार का कोहरा छा गया है. सो देयर इज़ अ फॉग, एंड दिस फॉग इज़ can't be driven away neither by air nor by breeze. No door could shut out. This is a dramatic element. Neither a door can shut. That shutting of window and door can't stop, and the doors cannot keep it out either. The whole street in front of them is thick with it. It will see in through the gaps from our black pillared house whose walls had ears, and walls had ears, the personification, and eyes. Begins personifying the house, scales, smells, bone, creaks, mighty visions, voices, and pores. Pollen will get through the holes like us. Self-explanatory. So the poet personifies the home, his home, that his walls of the home have ears, eyes. Through them, the fragrance or the elements of champak tree come into home and creates a type of allergic effect on poet's mother, and he cannot stop bringing them in home. But mother, flashing her temper like her mother twisted silver, giving the mother's anger some physical quality, shiny, radiant, expressive in her temper, grandchildren's knickers socked them wrung as with a cold pack on her head, wet because she was sweeting old sweets, would not let us cut down a flowering tree, flowering tree. So when poet decide that I will cut this champak tree, mother come forward. Thou, the mother suffers from great headache, a painful headache from the pollen of the champak tree that cause a allergic effect on poet's mother. But when poet want to cut the trees, the mother come forward, and this is and the element of irony in the poem, that what caused the pain and the poet want to cut the trees, but mother doesn't allow the poet to cut the trees. She come forward and presents argument, and what are his mother's argument? That cutting of trees will not good, and the trees are good for our family and for ourselves. And how it is good for them? Religious significance, bad omen, and the cutting of champak will be a bad omen, almost as old as her, and the trees are as old as she is. Seeded, she said, by passing bird, providential dropping take as blessing. And thus the seeding of these trees, growing of the trees is by a bird. This type of a blessing, a type of blessing from sky, from heaven, that the growing of champak tree in this area is a blessing. And if we cut the tree, it will be a bad omen and will bring some misfortune to family. So we should not cut these trees. These are beneficial. These are auspicious for a family, the mother says. Come from the sky to give her gods and her daughters and daughters basket full annual flower. This is the extent of what this tree is good for. And these trees give flower not only to this house but daughters and the daughter's daughter. That means a generation relation we have with trees. They provide a great flowering not only to the poet's mother but also the daughter of the house for their beautification or for their ornamentation, and they also offer these flower to God, and this offering will bring pleasant and happiness to the family. And for one line of cousins, a dower of migraine in season burn, and only one time I feel a migraine in this season, but the offering and the blessing of this pollen, this flower is great. Perhaps the pollen allergy